Hey guys, what up? So today I'm going to bring you guys something a little different. I'm going to be talking about a game that I just recently started playing, and that, as you can see, is Shadowverse Evolved. A little bit about this game. It just came out, I don't want to say about a month ago, maybe 3, 4 weeks ago. And what's out currently right now is the structure decks and the first base set, which I believe is 2 sets combined. If I recall, I might be incorrect about that. Anyways, my history with this game is I played the digital version of the game when it came out in 2016, up until around 2018, 2019. That's when I stopped playing. Uh, Whenever rotation was kind of introduced, and that's when I started to stop playing, mainly because I didn't really like rotation too much. And a lot of my cards that I own became sort of useless, and that's when I sort of quit the game. Um, and the main decks, or I guess the crafts or heroes I was playing back then, I was playing dragons, mage, or I guess spell, and swordcraft. So those were my main heroes, clans, whatever you call them. Those were my main characters that I played with, and I eventually was able to reach, I think, Grandmaster ranking, or something really close, like the second highest ranking, either the first or second highest ranking, because I was playing a lot of that game during the when I was in college, and I had like late night classes, and I was kind of bored listening to all the lectures, so I was just playing Shadowverse while taking notes, doing those things, and so I managed to grind a lot. And I was playing Ramp Dragon, Daria, mid-range, Wonderland, Swordscraft, all those things. For those who were playing the game during that time, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then don't worry about it. It might be introduced in the future. For right now, we're at the very beginning state of the game. So I kind of wanted to talk about the game, show off a little bit about my deck, show off some ideas, whatnot. Maybe help introduce some people to the game if you're completely unfamiliar with it. Now the game is brought over to America through, I believe, Bushiroad, who is the publisher or the person or the company that's making the game nowadays. I think some of the cards are printed in Malaysia. I don't know, maybe some in Singapore. I don't know if they have a printing company over here in the U.S. Anyways, the game is fairly easy to get into right now because it's at the very early stages of the game. It plays similar to Hearthstone, sort of like Force of Will, where you have this sort of mana system where every turn you get a orb or a mana, and you use that to kind of cast your cards, pay for it. What I do like about Shadowverse over something like Hearthstone is that it has more interaction, and there's really no RNG. Where when I used to play Hearthstone when it was at its height, what I hated about Hearthstone was the fact that there was a ton of RNG, and there was almost zero interaction, meaning that during my opponent's turn I would just sit there and kind of watch them play, and that was kind of boring. I love playing with interaction, so like Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, I love those games because they have a lot of ways to interact with your opponent's card. You're just not just sitting there doing nothing. I tried out a bit of Digimon, Vanguard. I played Vanguard too, and my issue with those games, same thing with Pokemon, is that you have very little ways of interacting with your opponents. Most of the time, you kind of just sit there, watch them play, and then don't do anything. That's sort of an issue with Yu-Gi-Oh sometimes too, where if you don't draw your hand traps, you don't draw interaction, you're just kind of sitting there watching your opponent play, solitaire essentially, and that gets really boring. But with Shadowverse so far, there's depending on what deck you're playing, there's still a lot of interaction. There's no counter spells per se, but there are a lot of removal. There's ways for you to do something during your opponent's turn and not just completely sit there and get bodied. Anyways, so that's sort of the basis of the game. There's a little bit more information about the game. Is that I think originally the game has 8 heroes or so, or 8 or 9 heroes. They had to condense the amount of heroes in the game. I think they combined Bloodcraft and Necrocraft, into one, and then they got rid of Portal, and they kind of, I think, made Portal sort of a neutral clan, more or less. But the basis, the main clans are still in the game. Like, you know, you got Sword, Forest, and Dragon. I guess, you know, Bloodcraft nowadays, and Haven, and I believe one more if I'm not mistaken. Or it's about 6 clans mainly. So they reduced it from 9 to like 6, or 7, I guess. Anyways, so the clan I chose to play was Dragoncraft. As you can kind of see, this is your leader card. You get this just buying a structure deck, so if you want to start the game, just pick one of the 6 structure decks, and then they'll come with your leader. That's essentially your hero. Unlike Hearthstone, your hero doesn't really do anything in the game. It doesn't have any special powers. It does absolutely nothing. All it's there for is just for looks and to basically tell your opponent what strategy you're going to be playing. So, for example, my hero is Roland, Dragoncraft. So it basically tells my opponent I'm a late game deck. I tend to ramp up and then play my big, you know, creatures, my big monsters, followers. In this particular game, they're called followers. So you play, you know, I'm waiting for late game, playing that sort of stuff. So what that allows you to do is basically allows your opponent to figure if they want to mulligan or keep their hand, depending on what kind of strategy they are. And that's the only purpose of your leader card. Shadowverse also has an app that you can download. The leader cards have an RF card in them, an RF chip, and so you can use your phone to scan it, and then through the app you can bring up your leader, and you can keep track of your life total, keep track of your mana, and then the leader has a couple of like quotes that he can use to speak and do things, which explains how thick these cards are. The leader cards and the token cards are super thick. They're like I don't know, like 2 credit cards combined, maybe a credit card. So they're really thick, made of cardboard. They don't go into your deck. They don't count towards your deck total. They're just there to tell your opponent what kind of clan you're playing. So yeah, so you get this with the structure deck. If not, you can pull one from the packs. But yeah, that's just, you know, the leader card. So yeah, I'm gonna put it to the side. Not really gonna talk about that. So I'm gonna talk about my deck. And then also, you know, some other cards that do come with the deck. So you get these evolution cards. So these cards are only used when you are going second, and they basically help to evolve your followers. So the digital and the actual physical card game are quite different in some aspects, especially how you evolve your followers and what you do with your evolved points. In the digital version, if you go second, you get 3 evolved points. If you go first, you get 2. And basically every single follower in the digital version can be evolved, where in the physical card game you have an evolved deck which can only contain 10 followers to evolve, and you don't necessarily need evil points to evolve them. You just spend mana to evolve them, and these evil points count as additional mana. So for example, in the game you can only evolve a maximum of 3 times unless you had a specific card that refreshes your evolve points. In the physical card game, every single follower that can evolve, that has specifically evolve on it, you can just spend mana to evolve it, rather than needing to spend these orbs to evolve it. So technically you can evolve up to 10 followers in the game, whatever your the maximum evolved deck allows for. So at the moment 10 followers. So yeah, so these are some cards that also come with the structure deck. I have some Pokemon sleeves over there, so just gonna put that to the side. And then I want to talk about a little bit about the mana system and why I have these things here. You also get some tokens. Let me bring in the tokens. These are the tokens that my deck generates. Like, as you can kind of see how thick they are. They're like credit card size, about maybe 1 millimeter thick, maybe 2 millimeters. But yeah, they're really thick. You can sort of put some sleeves over them, but I decided not to put sleeves. With my leader though, I did put like a clear sleeve in an inner, so it does work. But I don't really care for the tokens too much, so I just leave them unsleeved. But yeah, anyways, looking at this, you're wondering why I have some Pokemon energy cards, and this is just something that I'm not sure if it's allowed at the tournaments, but the way me and my friends play the game is we use these to kind of keep track of our mana. They're called play points in Shadowverse, but I play mostly Magic, and we use lands to keep track of our mana or what's allowed. I don't really play Pokemon. These are just like basic energies I had from, I don't know, the 90s, for off of my Pokemon collection. Anyways, so what we do is we take 10 of any card. It could be like the Force Will cards. It could be 10 lands from Magic. It could be like whatever you want, just 10 of anything, that doesn't matter. And what we do is that's how we use to keep track of our total play points per turn and what we've used. Because the way that the game has it set up is you use like these two columns. Let me see if I can pull a play mat out and show you. Just 1 second. So the game also comes with like this tracker thingy, right? Yeah, that's the manual. So let me show you. So this is like the official playmat, but it's kind of annoying to deal with because they have like two ways you can keep track of it. As you can kind of see, there's two columns for your play points. One is to keep track of your actual current play points, and one is to keep track of your maximum play points. And I see that as kind of redundant and kind of dumb. So what we do is we just use the lands to basically keep track of both. So if you play a orb or a mana, which you get every single turn, this is like your maximum. But when you tap it, it also keeps track of how much mana you have. So like, let's say it's my second turn, right, and I have 2 orbs or 2 play points. I can just tap one to signify that I've spent 1 play point and I have 1 available, and then I also have a maximum of 2 play points right now. So that's a little bit easier way of keeping track of your play points rather than using a dice or using your play mat with this thing, because this gets a little confusing. So we didn't bother that. We just got 10 of whatever cards you want. Every turn we add 1 to our thing and untap it, just like Magic, where you untap lands to signify how much mana you have open. In this particular scenario, we're using it to keep track of our play points. So we find that system a little bit better. Maybe in the future Shadowverse will do something similar to that, rather than using your dice or using your little tokens to keep track of it, because it comes with these tokens also, which are like kind of annoying to use. As you can kind of see, you have your reminders here, you have your the little play point tracker, kind of annoying, and then a bunch of these tokens. So instead of using these also, for example, if we have a follower here, right, and we somehow augmented its stats, what we do is we just use dice, honestly, and that seems to work a lot better. So for example, let's say I gave him a +1 attack, I would just put a dice on there. That would signify that he has 6 attack, and for same thing with his health. For example, let's say he took 2 damage, so we'll bring it down to 3 health, and that would just signify his stats. And I think we found that system a little bit easier, rather than using a bunch of these to kind of keep track of like his minus health, +1 health. Like, they don't give you enough of this to really make a huge, like, to keep track of all your followers, and so we just end up just using a dice. That's a lot easier to kind of keep track of their health and their stats changes. So anyways, so those are some of the small things I kind of wanted to bring up, and to sort of kind of help some newer players get some ideas on how you can keep track of your follower, how you can keep track of your mana and your orbs and your play points. But yeah, okay, now let's get into the main thing I want to talk about, which is the deck. So I just completed this deck today, more or less. Missing 1 card, but I'm still testing out the deck. And this, as far as the game goes, is sort of what we call the basic deck, which is the structure deck plus some cards I did buy from the base set. So in terms of how much cards I use from the structure deck, I think I use about 10 cards or so, and then the 30 I just end up just buying. And for the most part, the deck is relatively cheap to put together. I think the total cost for this deck, with everything I bought at today's current market price and structure deck, I think it came out to be around $200, which is a little expensive. This particular deck, the deck I'm playing, Dragon Ramp, is the most expensive most expensive and most, I guess, best deck in the current format. So it's a little pricey, but you can definitely build a deck for about $100, maybe even less than that. But yeah, this deck right here is technically the most expensive slash best deck, just because of the small amount of card pool in the format right now. If you can cast your really big expensive stuff earlier than your opponents, then you essentially win. The format's super simplified right now, so yeah, not really much to say outside of that. So I want to show you guys my deck, my personal build. I'm still testing it, and I've only played a few games with it after finishing it, so cards can change, but currently this is what it looks like, and I just want to kind of show it off, I guess. Anyways, so for my 1-drops, I have the 3 Blazing Breath. I really do think you need to play 3 of these. It helps you survive the early games. It's basically your 1-mana shock, 1-mana bolt, and yeah, you just really want to see it, and it's a really good card. Next off here, we have 3 Bell Ringer Angel. These things are pretty good. What it does is basically just acts as a blocker, and when it dies, draws you a card. So for 1 mana, you really need to survive up until you can cast your big stuff. There you go. And then next best card, we have the Shifting Mages. Just good stats later. Good. Like, if you play it early, you can just use it to trade for with things. Later in the game, it scales. So when you get Overflow, which is when you're at 7 maximum play points, then he will trigger on ETB, or I guess Fanfare, or I'm a Magic player, so entering the battlefield, he'll trigger, buff his stats to 5/5, and if you evolve him, he gains a couple additional texts or additional keywords, and so he gets pretty good as a 2-mana or 2-drop. And then we have the Dragon Oracle. So this is kind of like Invigorate or Innovate in or Wild Growth, I think. I forget exactly what it is, or Spiral Growth, I guess, in Magic. Basically just ramps you up by 1 play point, or if you're at maximum ramp, you can just play this and draw a card for 2 mana. So basically a Upstart Goblin, if you don't need the play points, if you don't need the ramp anymore. So yeah, so this is Ramp Dragon, by the way, in case you didn't know. So we're playing all these ramp cards. So this is another ramp card for 3 mana. When it dies, it ramps you 1. It has a sail, which is nice. So basically, this card will force trades with your opponents. You can clash it into a bunch of like whatever, and then ramp yourself up. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Ward. I would much prefer Ward over a sail, but still, not bad to have there. And unfortunately, it doesn't have an evolved version. If it had an evolved version, it'd be pretty great. You'd be able to play it, evolve it, clash into something, and then ramp yourself up. But it is what it is. So that's the other thing. Not every single follower in this game has an evolved form. For example, you can kind of see with both Bale and the Shifting Mages, they have the word E, which allows them to evolve. And yeah, so by evolving, you pay the mana costs. If you have the evil points, these things, you can also spend 1 per turn to pay for one of the mana costs of the evolution. Generally, they cost between 0 to 2, so they're not like super expensive to evolve. But yeah, they kind of help you to. It's like a sort of a comeback mechanic, or I guess an aggro mechanic, depending on how you use it. Yeah. Anyways, next off, I have 3 Serpent Wraps, Serpent Wrath. Yeah. So this card is pretty decent late in the game. In early game, I just use it as removal. Just blow something up for 5. I prefer this over Executioner. Executioner is another card you can play. I'll also I'll show you another card I'm playing over Executioner, because that's a $5 card and I don't think it's that great. But this is like 10 cents here, but you know, you spend 3 mana and it's quick, so you can cast it during your opponent's turn. You hit something for 5 damage, and then you draw a card if you're at 7 play points or higher, which is nice. Or I guess you're at overflow. So pretty nice there. And then I think this is one of our best early game followers too, namely because it's a 3/3 for 3 mana, and then when you evolve it, it becomes a 4/4, and it deals something for 3 damage. So it's good. Good card to use to trade with a lot of things. So really good card. I think this sees play for quite a while, and it's from the structure deck. So definitely keep this place in your or keep it in your main deck, because it's actually a really good card from the structure deck. Same thing with this. This comes in the structure deck here. The 3 oracles and the Blazing Breath. Unfortunately, only comes with 2 copies in the structure deck. I think this should have been 3 included, but so you have to pick 1 extra if you do just have the structure deck. Then next I have this chick, Zenitra, I believe is her name. So she's kind of just a stats sort of chick. Like basically, she gives you a dragon follower into your EX zone, which if you have the mana for, you can tap her, pay 2 mana, and then play a dragon from your EX zone and then give it rush. So she's good at being defensive and giving you a way to sort of like a pseudo evolution, I guess, a pseudo evolve. So if you play her on turn 3, she's just basically kind of a draw card, because she gives you 1 dragon, which you can play on turn 4 if you want to, or on turn 4 you can tap her and play a dragon for 2 mana. If you're playing her on turn 5, you can play her, get a dragon, and then tap her, and then give it rush and attack something. Or on turn 7, if you play turn 7, you can play her and then tap her. It would normally cost 2 play points to do that and put the dragon into play, but if you have overflow, basically her ability is free. So on turn 7, you can play her, get a free dragon, tap her, and then it refreshes your play points, and then you just attack with the dragon. So there's a couple situations depending on where you are in the game where she can be good. So I decided to play 2 copies, which is I think standard right now. Next off, I'm playing two Erd in place of execution. I like it a little bit better just because it gives you a body. Granted, it's 1 mana higher or 1 mana more expensive than Erd, or sorry, execution, and I think execution is also a quick, if I recall correctly. But I like the fact that she exiles rather than kills something, so she can kind of banish a creature, and she also trade, so she can force something back into the EX and then banish the card from the EX, and then also trade as a 3/3 when you do evolve her. But I may cut her in the future. For now, she's just 2 in the deck. And then for our namesake, our most expensive card in the deck right now is going to be the Dragon Dragoon Force Forte. So she's great. She has Storm, so you can play her, crash into something if you need to, 5 damage anywhere you want on the board. And then when you evolve her, she becomes a 7/3. But yeah, for this namesake of the deck, and probably my favorite character in the game, because when I played the digital version, I maxed out copies of her on the digital version. She did get nerfed in the digital version, unfortunately. And then in the card version, she's a little bit weaker, because in the card version, you can actually just trade like a bat into her and kill her, where in the digital version she had untargetable. I think she couldn't be attacked by followers, which was really good. So in the paper version, she's a little bit weaker, but she's still really good, especially if you play her on turn 6. You can evolve her, and then she has Storm, so she can 7 damage anywhere you want for 6 mana, which is kind of nice. But yeah, so 3 of her. This card is really good. Also I think it's gonna get limited in the future. But basically, it keeps you alive. So it has Ward, it has Draw 2, so it basically replaces itself. So Draw 2, discard 1, so no matter what, it replaces itself. Pretty good stats, and when it evolves, it heals you for 5. So yeah, definitely a card that you should be playing if you're playing Dragon. Um, yeah, basically helps you stabilize and gain card advantage, and is the only other ward you play in a deck, because I think the Bell Ringer and Shenlong are the only ward cards you have. Next off, I have three board wipes. So these are Conflagration. Just 5 mana, deal 5 to everything. And so you're playing against Sword, or you're playing against a bunch of bats or something like that. You need a board wipe. This is a good card to have. Max it out. I think it's a good card to have. It's one of the better board wipes in the game currently. So why not have 3 copies of it? And then my payoffs, once I do ramp up, I do have 2 Lucifer here. You can play 2 or just 1 copy, honestly. I decided just to play the 2 because I do like this card, especially in the digital format. I always like the art and I always like playing it. It's probably not as good on paper, but you know, it's still a cool card to have. It does help you stabilize. It does have ward too. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, this card also has ward. I don't believe in the digital version it has ward, but on the paper version it does have ward, and so your opponent's forced to attack into him. And he also have a he's basically free to evolve. Cost 0 to evolve, so if you need something to like get rid of something by attacking, you can evolve him, attack into it, and then once he's engaged, he has wards, so kind of nice in that sense. And then finally, 2 Genesis Dragon, and then one or 2 Fafnirs. So ideally, you go Fafnir to basically just kill off all your opponent's potential warding or whatever they have on the board, stabilize with him, and then that turn the turn after that you slap this guy down. So that's like 17 damage right there. So if they have no ward, you go, or they have a bunch of wards, you go Fafnir, blow up their board, turn 9 or turn 10, whatever, slap down a Genesis Dragon and just swing in for 10. So that's 17 damage. Maybe you have some other follower on the board, but yeah, potentially game ending right there. So yeah, so that's the deck. In terms of the main deck, it plays like Yu-Gi-Oh! You have a 40 card main deck, and you have a maximum of 3 copies of each card. And yeah, and like up here, these are the if you break down the card, I guess stats or whatever. So that's the cost up there. So basically 3 play points to play. That's the amount of attack it has and the amount of health it has. So pretty simple. And yeah, pretty simple card design, not much to really say about it. And then finally, let's talk about the I guess the extra deck, or they call it the evolved deck. So you have 10 evolved followers. I am missing a card, but right now we'll show you what it is. So playing 1 Bell Ringer, and so when you do evolve something, you essentially just slap it on top of it, and then it becomes that particular card. When you evolve something, it gains rush. So no matter what it has, it gains rush, meaning it can attack a engaged follower, unless it has a sail or something like that. But yeah, with her, I just play the 1 Bell in the evolve deck, because even though the game just started, the evolve deck gets super tight, because you only have 10 cards, and so you're basically playing a lot of one-ofs unless there's a card that you really want to evolve twice. But yeah, with her, she's only really good early game. So you evolve her, ping something for 2, and then she acts as a ward. So just the 1 copy there. I'm playing 1 copy of Erd. Yeah, she allows you to banish something and then attack into it, or trade with something else if you wanted to. I'm missing 1 shapeshifter mage guy, his evolved form. So right now, you know, in his place right now, I'm waiting for it in the mail. I have 3 dragon warriors. I definitely would just play 2. 3 is a lot, but right now one of them will be the shapeshifter evolved form once I do get that. So 3 there, and then 2 Shenlongs. Once he gets limited, then yeah, you will only play 1 of him. But right now, yeah, 2 Shenlongs heals you for 5, and gets a +1/+1. So in terms of how big he gets, so yeah, he's good. And then finally we have 1 Lucifer and then 2 Fortes. So Forte becomes a 7/3 and can't be targeted by spells. Trade anywhere you want. And then Lucifer becomes sort of like a burn card. It deals damage, 4 damage end of the turn. I think he gets a little bit bigger too. I forget what his basic stats was. So in terms of his stat changes, I guess he gains 2 more power, or 2 more attack, and he loses ward, but he does get Bane. So I think that's worse. I think I mean, I guess they're for different purposes. One is to be more aggro, and one's to be more of like a card um, that you can stabilize with. I don't know when Bane would ever be good, just because with 8 power he should be able to kill anything anyways. So I don't know why they slapped Bane. I guess having him with ward would be too broken, because then you can just evolve him, attack with him, and also have ward up. So I guess that's why they gave him Bane. They should have gave him, I think, something else instead of Bane, but whatever. Give or take. But yeah, so that's the evolved deck right now. What's gonna change in the future is maybe this is gonna go to 1 once he gets banned or whatever, limited, and then maybe I'll take out the Erd and then play Bahamut once that gets released with set 2. But yeah, for now with set 1 and structure deck, that's basically the deck right now. Pretty simple, and so far the game is really enjoyable to play. It plays a little bit more different compared to Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh. Definitely different from like Vanguard and Digimon, which I dabbled in but didn't really quite stick with me. But I think I will stick with Shadowverse. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the digital card game quite a bit, and a majority of my friends are actually playing Shadowverse right now too. I sort of a break from Magic and a break from Yu-Gi-Oh. Just because the game it definitely feels more back and forth, because you do get to 10 mana quite quickly, or not quickly, but you do eventually get to the late game, where like Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, especially with Modern, sometimes the game ends by like turn 4, just because, or you start losing a lot quicker. And then same with Yu-Gi-Oh is that you don't have hand traps, you don't have interaction. You're basically going to be done in almost 1 turn. But yeah, in terms of the prices of the game, it's not too bad, I don't think. And I think with more prints and reprints, this game is going to get cheaper in the future. And if it survives, if it sticks around, then cool. Otherwise, I do like the card arts. I do like collecting them, so it's not too bad for me. I think. Although $200 is not cheap. I would say it's affordable but not cheap. Let's just leave it at that. Anyways, guys, I hope you do enjoy this sort of like episode, I guess, or introduction to the game. If you're having fun playing the game, let me know. If not, comment down below. But I hope some of these tips and some of the things I talk about, makes this game a little bit easier to get into. It's not for everyone, for sure. The art for sure it's definitely more on the weebier side, I guess. Yeah, or it looks like more waifu and whatnot. If you like Magic art, you're probably not gonna like Shadowverse art. If you like Yu-Gi-Oh art, then you'll probably be okay with Shadowverse. If you like Vanguard or Weiss, you'll probably love Shadowverse art. And obviously it's made by Bushiroad, so crossover is not the I guess the I wouldn't say crossover, but like playing between the 2 different games is not too big of a hurdle in terms of getting used to the mechanic and the art and stuff like that. Anyways, that's it. I think I rambled on long enough, and I will see you guys next time. Maybe I'll post a video on my Modern deck for Magic sometime soon, or Yu-Gi-Oh, but for now this is what I got and this is what I'm enjoying. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time.